22 News Plus studio. This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's edition of InFocus. I am here today with the State Fire Marshal for the state of Massachusetts, John Davine. John, thank you very much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me.
Let's start off basically with what does your office do? What does the State Fire Marshal do on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis?
That's a great question. So I oversee the Massachusetts Department of Fire Services, which is a part of the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security. And our core mission really is to support the fire service in Massachusetts. So we train the majority of the career and call and volunteer firefighters in the state. We have the special operations, so the hazmat teams, the statewide hazmat response teams. We have the troopers assigned to the fire marshal's office on the fire investigation side, along with the Massachusetts State Police bomb squad side. We provide rehab units and incident support units for large incidents throughout the Commonwealth. We have the code enforcement section, fire safety division. So in there, we're doing our senior safe, our safe program for kids in schools, all of our code compliance. We assist a lot of the local departments when they have questions regarding the fire code and compliance.
Now, how big is your office, or is your office small, yet you utilize the individual fire departments throughout the Commonwealth?
So we have 3 campuses. Our main campus is out in Stowe, so that's where the majority of our folks work out of. And then we have a campus here in Springfield, where we have folks working there. And then we're in the process actually now of building a new campus down in Bridgewater. We're actually on September 25th. We just built a brand new burn building. So the firefighters can do their live fire training, and we're going to do the ribbon cutting on September 25th. With Governor Healy will be there, Secretary of Public Safety Reedy will be there. So we're really looking forward to that.
And through that campus, the one here in Springfield and the one in Stowe, what are those training facilities?
So
What are
they're
on those
training
campuses?
facilities, and then they also host our code enforcement folks. We have investigators as fire troopers assigned to the fire investigation unit, assigned to those boiler and pressure vessel inspectors, recruit instructors. So, we have quite a few folks working at all 3 campuses.
Now, you're a Western Mass guy. You're
Correct.
from Western
I
Mass, and you were, until you became fire marshal, you were at a local town as
Correct.
fire
Yes, I
department.
spent 25 years in the City of Northampton Fire Rescue Department. Started in 1998 and left there when I took the marshal position in July of 23.
What was that process like? How do you find out about the fire marshal's position? And is it does the governor tap you and say, John, we want you to move up to this role? How does that work?
No, so, obviously being a fire chief in Northampton, I knew when my predecessor, Marshal Ostrowski, was retiring, when he announced his retirement. And, it was one of those things where I was just kind of looking for maybe a little bit bigger challenge. And
You found it.
yeah, and I found it. And when they posted the position, again, talking to my family and kind of figuring out, is this the right move for us? So I submitted my name, submitted my application, and then, it was the interview process, and the marshal's selected by the Fire Service Commission,
Okay.
which is a commission made up of fire chiefs, and the Secretary of Public Safety sits on there. And so did a couple interviews with them and was lucky enough to get selected for the position.
So did you have to leave Northampton?
I did.
You
Yes.
moved and left Northampton.
Now, I actually still live in
Okay.
town. I live in East Hampton, actually,
Okay.
and I make the commute out to Stowe. So,
Wow,
yeah,
that's
it's a ride.
well,
It's a ride.
I have to imagine in your role, you go to Stowe, but you go all over the state.
Oh, I'm everywhere. Try to make it to, and with this, I feel like with this position, the most important thing I need to do is be out there and hearing from the fire chiefs and hearing from the fire service. So you're right. I spend a lot of time on the road going to regional chiefs meetings, the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts. I work very closely with them and their board of directors. Because our main goal is to support the fire service. So,
Right.
I need to hear from the chiefs. I need to hear from the fire departments about, what is our agency doing well? And, are we having problems? Are there things we need to fix? And just to make sure we're giving them the support they need.
Going back in time when you were a young man growing up here in Western Mass, and you considered this as a career, how has the job changed from when you first entered to where we are today, and 2025 and going into 2026?
And the job has changed a lot. I think if you asked any fire chief out there, Call volume is up quite a
Is it
bit.
fire call volume, or for those communities that have fire ambulance, or is it ambulance volume,
I
or
think
both?
ambulance volume is probably the leader. But I think fire calls are up also, just calls for service. Recruitment and retention has been very difficult for the fire departments out there. I know even me, in Northampton, before I left Northampton, it was very difficult to find, young folks that want to make a career out of the fire service. Especially paramedics, if you're a fire-based EMS system like Northampton was, and you're trying to hire paramedics, there's a really big shortage of paramedics out there, so that was difficult. But and then the new challenges we're facing, the lithium ion batteries,
Right.
and
Whole new
stuff like
learning
that.
curve
Yeah,
dealing with that.
so we're constantly evaluating, and changing our tactics in the fire service. So, us as the Department of Fire Services have to keep up with that also, so that we're providing the correct training for the firefighters so that they can handle these new hazards.
It's funny. I go back in time to, when I was a high schooler, 16, 17, 18 years old. I was looking at being a fireman. I grew up in Westfield, born and raised in Westfield, but I couldn't do the medical side of it, the EMT paramedic side. And in Westfield, you have to be,
Right, right.
both. And so that discouraged me.
Sure.
Not yeah, fast forwarding, a couple of decades, I realized there are neighboring communities where you
Oh, yeah.
don't have,
No,
you can be
absolutely.
just a fireman. So how do you do that recruitment? Are you in high schools, middle schools, colleges, talking to students, both
Yeah, I mean,
young men and women?
departments are doing career fairs, they're doing informational sessions, social media is huge. And I think that's where, we're trying to figure out with working with the fire chiefs, like what's the best way to reach young people and to get them interested in this career and explain to them, you're not going to get rich doing this job, right?
Right.
But it's been an amazing career for me. It's been very fulfilling. It's been good to my family. Um, but
It's a rewarding
it
career.
is. It's a rewarding career, and you need to get that information out to the young folks,
Right.
right? And make them understand. It's a great depart. You have a great job. You get a defined pension, which is great.
Yeah.
There's not many jobs out there now where you can, when you retire, you're going to have a defined
Yeah.
pension. So that's a huge benefit. So it's really just educating, the community members and trying to get them involved and kind of emphasizing taking care of your community, right?
Right.
And helping your neighbors and getting back to that public service aspect of it.
Absolutely. Well, we need to take our first break. We're talking with the State Fire Marshal, John Davine. John, we'll be right back after this.
Very good.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
Welcome back to today's edition of In Focus. I am joined in the studio by the State Fire Marshal, John Davine. John, thank you very much for giving me some of your time. I know
Absolutely.
you're
Thank you.
a busy man. September is the launch of school. All the little kids are back in school. College kids are back in school. It is an important time in your world because when we think of we think of home fires, we don't normally think of the students, but
Right.
it's a tough time because some of these college kids who have never cooked before are sent off to a dorm room, a boarding, whether it could be high school kids in boarding school.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a number one time for fires in student housing,
It
correct?
is. It is. You're absolutely correct. And we had about almost 2,500 fires in between dormitories, sororities, fraternity houses in the years 2020 to 2024. And along with those fires, we had civilian injuries, we had firefighter injuries, and those fires caused almost $4 million worth of damage to property.
Wow. And that's
So,
just
and that's
Massachusetts.
just Massachusetts. So yeah, it's very important for us to get that message out, fire safety
So
to the
what's the
students.
effort on your end to get that message out?
So
What are you and your department doing?
So we're, working with the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, putting out press releases, pushing all of our information out on social media, but we need the students themselves to be aware. And as you said, a lot of them, it's their first time away from home. They're
Right.
moving into an unfamiliar building, an unfamiliar residence, whether it be a sorority, fraternity, or a dorm room. So, really just getting that fire safety message out to those students.
Is there an effort? Yeah, I mean, do you go on campus anywhere? Or, I mean, how's that effort conducted? I mean, are you literally, you got staff members on campus,
No,
UMass,
I mean,
Westfield State,
yeah, I mean, we don't
Dartmouth, pick
really
it.
have the staff to get out to the different campuses. Like at the Big E, we have
Good
our
point. Yeah.
tent at the Big E. So, we push out a lot of information there, and it's mainly just really just trying to get the message out through social media and those different avenues
Where the kids are,
where
right?
the
Meet them
kids
where
are.
they are. What are some of the causes? We joke about cooking. Kids used to mom and dad cooking at home, and now they're cooking for the first time. Is cooking, or is it? I'm thinking maybe overloaded power strips, candles.
Candles, all that stuff, but cooking is the major one,
Okay,
right? So, we always use the adage, stand by your pan, right? So,
that's a good one.
when you're
Yeah,
cooking, you need to pay attention and stand by the stove and make sure that, you're keeping an eye on your cooking. And especially if, you've been out, if you've had a few drinks or something like that, that's when it's really important. Late at night, you want to make sure you're paying attention to what you're doing. You don't
right.
fall asleep and then have a fire.
Yeah, the last thing you need is, you come home from a late night at another dorm or whatever, you're hungry for something, you
Right.
put on the hot plate,
Yeah.
and you fall asleep. Next thing you know, you've got yourself a fire.
Cooking up your chicken wings or your ramen noodles, and the next thing you know, you have a fire.
Exactly, exactly. So when it comes to the students, it's not just college kids too. And I shouldn't, limit it to just students. Fire education is a 365-day job,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, like I said, we have younger kids that are living, we have a lot of boarding schools in the Commonwealth. So we have young up
right?
to elementary age students,
Exactly.
right? Are in dormitories
I
and
think of McDuffie,
high
Northfield,
schools.
absolutely.
Sure. Deerfield Academy. I mean, we've got a ton of different schools in the Commonwealth. So, we're not, that's what we're pushing. It's not just the college kids, right? It's all the way down to the elementary age.
Now, you must have connections at all of these schools to make sure, or you actually, let me rephrase it. You have to do inspections to make sure that there are smoke detectors in these places,
Sure.
right?
I mean, that's up to the local jurisdiction, right? So the local fire department will do those types of inspections. And if they need assistance, they'll reach out to our office. And we have 5 regional code compliance officers assigned throughout the state, and they'll work with the local fire department if they have questions, or if they have issues, we can work with them at the state level.
And there are ways for organizations, whether it's, a big campus like UMass or, maybe a small boarding school to, to work with your office or their local fire department to get smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors in quantity, in
Oh,
bulk.
absolutely. And we always tell them, listen, reach out to your local fire department. And if they can't assist you, they will reach out to us, and then we will provide that assistance.
On your website, what are some of the information that people can gather when they go to the website as far as like tips and tricks and ways to stay safe?
Oh, it's a great question. We have our website's fantastic. If I do say so myself, our folks do a great job with that. Everything, from smoking safety, smoking on oxygen, candles, lithium ion batteries, and we're constantly updating that information. As we learn, more and more about these different things, we post that information on our website. So, the public can go to our website and pretty much find fire safety information about pretty much every topic.
You mentioned the lithium ion batteries. There's been a number of fires so far throughout this year caused by those. And one recently, I think it was in Chicopee,
Amherst had a big one the
Amherst.
other day,
That's
last weekend.
that
Correct.
was it. How? I mean, batteries are new. It's kind of new to our world.
Correct.
Electric cars are there.
Right.
A lot of e-bikes now. How dangerous are they? Or yeah, I mean, because everybody talks about, oh, I'm never buying an electric car because it caught on fire, but
Yeah.
gas cars catch on fire too.
Exactly. And we're not here to stop progress and stop technology, right? Lithium ion batteries are here to stay.
Right.
We just need to figure out what's the best way to make people safe when they're using them. And it's really, the majority of your fires are caused by using, overcharging them or using a charger, an aftermarket charger that didn't come with the
Right.
product, right? Tinkering with batteries. We had the TikTok challenge in schools last fall
What was
before
that?
school got out, where kids were taking their computers and putting paper clips in there and shorting them out. So we put out some safety messages regarding that.
Okay.
And any obviously anytime you do something like that, or if you're trying to get into the computer or screwing around with the battery, that's usually when problems happen.
Right.
And we tell especially students this time of year, if you're charging your phone, charging your laptop, charge it on a hard surface like a desk. Don't wrap it up in your comforters, or
Yeah.
put it on a soft surface, because it can overheat and it can cause a fire.
And then we've all been there. Your phone has been on a charger and you take it off. You're like, well, that's kind of warmer than it should be. But,
Yeah, yeah, and if you think about it, the majority of us, and I'm guilty of it myself, right? We live and die with the phone,
right.
and when you go to bed at night, where's the phone charging? right next to your head,
Exactly,
right?
and
So,
that's a dangerous
and
scenario right there, because
that's a
then the fire
dangerous
starts in the
scenario.
bedroom,
Exactly.
then you've got bigger problems.
Yeah, and with the e-bikes and stuff like that, especially, you have a lot of students riding e-bikes on campus, and you know, we don't want them charging indoors. You
Right.
definitely don't want them blocking any of your exits. So if you do have to get out in case of a fire, if you're charging that bike in the hallway and it catches on fire, now you've blocked your means of egress,
What's your
right?
escape
So
plan?
your escape plan,
Is that what
essentially.
happened in Amherst? It was in a hallway and it kind of
I don't know the
no? Okay.
specifics of it. I haven't had a chance to look at the report yet, but it will, the information will come out.
So what's the training on your on the fire department's end for your everyday firefighter on lithium batteries? Do they
So
go to Stowe, Bridgewater,
So we have an
Springfield?
online program
Okay.
that we're continuously updating. Like I said, as we get new information about this technology, that firefighters can log in for free and take the training. 2 years ago, in the fall of 2023, we did a large lithium-ion battery symposium where we brought in, experts from all over the place, and we did it in kind of a TED Talk format where these folks got up and had like 30 to 45 minutes to talk about their subject. We had over 100 attendees from the fire service in that. So, we're constantly updating the training and, you know, showing them how to extinguish these fires, what to do with the batteries if you find one that's compromised. And that's another one that I should mention too. If students find, they're looking at their laptop or their phone, and obviously if it's smoking or swelling or, there's a strange odor coming from it, they need to make sure to get rid of that thing, put it outside and make sure it doesn't start on
And I
fire.
think a lot of, at least I think college campuses have a student
Right.
IT support. So if you're on campus, you're away from home and you're having a problem, yeah, you let mom and dad
Yeah.
know, but go to the campus
Reach out to your
IT,
campus.
because
Correct.
again, it's an easy step to take. It could
Yeah,
prevent an
absolutely.
absolute tragedy. Well, we need to take our second break. John, I want to thank you so very much. We're going to be right back
You
after
bet.
this.
This is 22 News in Focus with Patrick Berry.
We are back here in the InFocus studio with State Fire Marshal John Davine. John, again, thank you very much for giving me some of your time today. I
Sure.
greatly appreciate it. We've covered a lot of ground today. One of the things that I know is coming up, and I know I'm guilty of this, is the fully enclosed batteries in smoke detectors.
Correct.
Explain that to me again. It was 10-year policy or something to that nature?
Correct. So when that statute came out, it mandated that if you're going to replace your smoke alarms, they have to have the 10-year sealed battery with a hush feature on the detector. So we're getting to that 10-year mark now. So one of our big pushes with the fire chiefs is, hey, just reminding everyone it's been 10 years, it's gone by quick.
Right.
But if you have those batteries and you purchased them when the law came out, it's time to replace those smoke alarms. And then the other aspect of that is replacing those alarms, but also disposing of them properly because they do contain a 10-year sealed lithium ion battery. So, those batteries need to be disposed of properly, not just thrown in the trash, because again, they can be crushed or damaged,
Start
which
a
will create
fire.
a fire in your trash truck or you're, in the dumpster or something like that. So that's another big push coming out from us and the fire chiefs.
If homeowners are adept at basic home maintenance, they can go to a hardware store and buy replacements, right?
They can. You just want to make sure that again you have the 10-year sealed battery with a hush feature, and that they're certified by a UL independent laboratory. UL Intertech is another big one.
Okay.
And I think we always try to cheap out on the smoke alarms, right? You go to Home Depot or your local hardware store, and people buy
See the
the cheapest.
$60 one, you got no, the
Right,
15 one is
right.
fine.
And
$15
it
one.
always surprised me because that's probably one of the most important things you can ever purchase to
Yeah,
protect yourself, your family, and your property.
right.
So it's really not the time to save money.
So if I'm in a home where I still have the smoke detectors that have the 9-volt
Sure.
battery in it, can I just replace the battery, or do I need a fully sealed?
So the first thing you want to do is look at the detector. Take it down, look at the back of it, look for the expiration date. So if it's 10 years old or older or getting close to that 10-year mark, you want to replace
Replace
it.
the whole thing?
You want to replace the whole thing.
Okay.
And again, with your Carbon monoxide alarms, same thing. Your carbon monoxide alarms, you have to look at the manufacturer. Some of them are 5 years, 7 years, 10 years of when they recommend to be replaced. But yeah, you want to, purchase the new alarms, get that, install those, and then test them. If your alarms are only a year old and you have lithium ion or just a regular 9-volt battery in there, again, change your clocks, change your batteries, right? We
Exactly.
want you to
It's an
change the
easy thing to do.
batteries and then test them. We say smoke alarm Saturday, right?
Hmm.
One Saturday a month, pick a Saturday where you walk around and just push the button and make sure all of your alarms are working and your family's safe.
It's funny you talk about, pushing a button. Let's circle back to our students. Those young members of our household who may have gone off to college. Be aware of your surroundings in your dormitory, or if you live off campus housing. Where are the smoke alarms? Maybe not in a dorm. Don't check it.
Right.
Let the staff do that. But if you're in an off-campus house,
Oh, absolutely.
make sure exactly test it, right? Just to
Yeah,
make sure.
you have to walk around and test them, and if you don't have them, they should. We recommend if you're moving into an off-campus apartment, you should have a smoke alarm in each bedroom and one in the hallway outside the bedroom, right? And if you're going through your new apartment or your new building and there's no smoke alarms, then you need to reach out to the landlord, and they are mandated to provide those devices for
So
you.
the landlord has to do that. You as a tenant
Correct.
don't have to.
Correct. So, and if you're having trouble with that, again, contact your local fire department and then they can assist you. And along with the smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms, now you're in a new residence. Do you know how to get out of that residence in
Good
the
point.
dark? Right.
Right.
So we tell people, listen, practice that escape route. Figure out an escape route from this new apartment or this new building and make sure that, your exits aren't blocked with boxes or, your 10 speed or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
and practice that exit route. So in the middle of the night, if something happens in the dark, you know how to get out of the building.
That escape plan is so crucial, and even if, in those homes where you've got small kids, educate them at an early
Yeah.
age, here's what happens.
We want you to have two ways out. And if you live on a first floor or even a second floor, one of those ways out of your room may be the window,
Yeah, good
right?
point.
But you need to understand you have to have two ways out of a building.
Right. Some of the things that, and we will start to approach this season, the holiday season, which is when I think of most home fires happening. People burning candles, they plug in a Christmas tree or their menorah. And I was guilty of this for many years the tree isn't where the outlet is, so I'm going to put a power strip and run an extension cord and then
Absolutely.
another power strip so I can plug the tree in. You really should not be doing that.
No, and especially for your large appliances, right? So space heaters,
Right.
air conditioners, those need to be plugged directly into the wall outlet. You do not want to plug those into extension cords or power strips. And if if you're going to use a power strip, again, get one that's then verified by an independent laboratory like UL,
Hmm.
and just don't overload them. That's the biggest thing, is overloading those power strips. And candles, I'm anti-candle. I'll probably get a hard time for that, but
You and me both, John.
we recommend go with the battery operated candle,
Right.
right? Because I mean everybody's so busy, and you light a candle, next thing you know your phone rings and you ran out the door and you left the thing burning. So we just recommend, they're beautiful. I don't disagree, but use a battery operated
Yeah,
candle.
I agree. For me, it's the smell,
Yeah,
but
it's not worth the
this
risk.
exactly. It might smell great, but you hit the nail on the head. John Davine, State Fire Marshal for the state of Massachusetts. I want to thank you so very much for your
No,
time today.
thank you
Very
thanks for
educational
having me. I appreciate it.
for you folks out there with students living in student housing dorms. Make sure those kids know where the smoke detectors are. Make sure they work, and most importantly, make sure they know how to get out. We'll see you next time on In Focus.